So, ooh. So somebody made a comment the other day, and it sort of reverberated in my head.
And they hurt.
Yeah, really. And what they basically said was that somebody that they knew, I think it was an adult talking about a teenager, which, okay, that's fine. But somebody did something. And based upon them doing something, the adult is saying, well, now I'm really kind of unhappy with that teenager. And I'm not really sure how to respond to them or act with them. So I'm just kind of ignoring them and not talking to them and kind of put them off to the side a little bit.
In a church setting.
In a church setting. But a very, very typical response of somebody does something, and based upon that, what they're doing or how they're acting or whatever, we respond to that thing. And so I got to thinking about it in relationship to Christ and saying, okay, there are people who did things and Christ responded to them in specific ways. And so I was going to highlight some of the people that had done some things, and then I'll let you think about that this week is, all right, so how do you respond to that? What do you do? Some of these are actually people that Christ came in contact with. Some are part of his parables. Make it slightly different, but still the same kind of concept. So if you think about it in Luke 7, and I know Robin's going to write all these down for us. In Luke 7, the first 10 verses, the centurion has a son who's sick. But think about it, it's a centurion. So in relationship to Christ, it's somebody who the Jewish community doesn't communicate with. There's Pamela, so she's right on time. It's part of a community that they don't really talk to very much. It's people that they don't interact with. It's people that are in one way sort of kind of unclean, and we don't like these Romans. And yet, Jesus heals his son. If you look at later in Luke 7, you've got the woman who's caught in adultery. And so if you think about it, they bring her to Jesus and they basically tell Jesus what she's done wrong. So you can't say that Jesus didn't really know anything about her. They probably told her a lot more than he wanted to hear. But again, she's had a set of actions. The Jews are like, what do we do based upon this set of actions? And then Christ responds. We look at Luke 8, slightly different situation. You've got the woman with the issue of blood. Christ doesn't know her, it doesn't seem. And yet when she touches his garment and healed, he turns around and says, okay, what's going on? Somebody got healed. And then she tells them what her problem was. But again, sort of like the Roman centurion, you've got a person who's unclean, and the poor rabbi's not supposed to touch any of these people or do any of these people. He's also dealing with a woman in the Middle Eastern culture, and he responds. You look at in Samaria, you look at the woman in the well. Now, I don't see anything that tells much about her as she's coming to the well, but we all from Middle Eastern society know that the only reason she's coming to the well by herself is because she's kind of an outcast to start with. Because otherwise she's not coming in the middle of the day all by herself. The second thing is, we know from Jesus' statements that he's probably got some clue as to, kind of who she is and what she is, because he says, well, that's good. You say you have no husband. You're right. The guy you're living with isn't your husband, but you've had, a million other husbands, and you've done this and you've done that, and you've done this and done that. And the woman looks at him and says, must be a prophet. So obviously Jesus knows what she's done, understands her character, and understands why she's coming to the well by herself. And then he responds to her, even though he knows these things about her. If we look at the prodigal son, and we look at the younger son as he's coming back, it doesn't appear that dad knows exactly what the son has done, however long he's been gone, but dad knows kind of how much money he gave him, and dad knows he doesn't have any anymore. And so it's fairly obvious that he squandered whatever wealth he had. And not only that, but he embarrassed dad in front of the entire town. And he kind of insulted dad by saying, "Give me all my money, I'm going to leave, dad." So dad knows that the younger son hasn't been the pinnacle of the wonderful son. Not quite sure necessarily what exactly he did while he was gone, but dad responds, and dad obviously is a typecast of God. But dad responds to the son. And if you think about it then, when dad has to go talk to the older son says, "Well, I can imagine what my brother did," and lays out all this kind of, drug, sex, and rock and roll that the younger son must have done to waste all this money. And the older son is responding to his brother based upon his imagination of what the younger brother has done. Some of which you could say today, like, well, I've been in church and I've been a good boy all these years, and this person's, drug, sex, and rock and roll, and we're going to let him in church. What? Wait a minute. I've been the good guy. Now we got this idiot who wants to come back in the church. And so there's a response there of the older son to the brother based upon what he supposes his younger brother has done. So we have all of these groups of people that Jesus has come in contact with, in general knows exactly where they've been and what they've done, and responds to them in a way that's different than sometimes we respond. Being really silly. "Oh, I couldn't talk to that person. They're Catholic. Oh my goodness, I'm not even sure they're Christian. So I never could go to dinner at their house." And you think that doesn't ever happen yet, does? But we as humans respond to people around us quite often based upon how they look, how they act, what they say, what we know they've done, what we think maybe they've done. And then we respond according to that set of facts or things that we've decided so on. And so what I thought, so we got Luke 7, got Luke 8, sort of down around verse 43. We got Luke 19, the first part of that. We've got John 4, starting at about verse 7. And I think if you look at it and think about the way we respond to people, or us as humans, and then look at, well, how does Christ knows, using the woman caught in adultery as an example, Christ knows that this is the lady who's caught in adultery. That's not good according to all the rules. She's not acting appropriately. If Jesus has an opportunity to respond, and does, obviously. The same with the prodigal son. The same with the centurion, the woman with the issue of blood, the Samaritan lady at the well. All of these people, he's responded in a way that seems to me is different from the person I was, ran into this week. It was like, well, so-and-so did X, so I'm unhappy. So I'm just sort of temporarily, at least, kind of writing them off. I won't talk to them. I won't see them. I'll kind of avoid them and all of that kind of stuff. And I'm not sure that's exactly what Christ did in these other examples.
You think?
So I'll let you guys think about that and then figure out, okay, if there's that difference, if things like that are being done differently, if Jesus responded to people differently, what does that really mean to us? What's a way that we might respond better? And what does that look like here in 2025? So I'll leave that all to you for a week, give you something to do. I know you're all bored and had nothing to do. And that way it's more fun. And if Robin stops recording,
We can visit.
we can visit and hear from Pam, and I'm sure she has a prayer request.